Hey, welcome to the Milk and Sugar Effect. It's Mavericks as we continue our podcast series chatting to South Africa's Mavericks. And today's guest is 34-year-old CEO of global Fintech company IG South Africa. His name is Aphindile Bokleni. He's originally from the Eastern Cape. He was born in Mthatha but grew up in Libode, about an hour outside of Port St. John's. Skip a couple of years ahead, he studied at Wits in Johannesburg, and after what I would describe as a meteoric rise up the corporate ladder, he is now the CEO of IG South Africa. And we're going to be chatting to him today on Mavericks. My name is James Lennox. It's great to have you along for the ride. Now, before we get into Aphindile's story, it would be great if you liked this podcast or shared it, or even better, please subscribe. Every subscription helps, and it also means that you will never miss an episode of Mavericks from the Milk and Sugar Effect. So, Aphindile, without much further ado, let's get back into your story. But I want to clear something up before we even start. Showstopper. Tell me about your nickname, Showstopper. Where did you get Showstopper from?
Hi, James. Showstopper, oh my word, it's embarrassing to even say it on screen that my nickname is Showstopper. But it's a nickname I picked up playing basketball back in high school. Let's kill it.
Leave it there.
Yeah, let's leave it there.
I was going to ask, did you have a specific move? Was it an alley-oop? Was it an MJ sort of floating through the air?
Yeah, not quite. I was not that good at basketball, but it did get me the nickname, and it carried over into university as I.
And that's the problem with nicknames, right? They never actually go away. It's like somebody will find someone who knows something about you that you don't want to get out there. But we'll leave that alone.
Exactly.
Everyone has a story to tell, Aphindile. Where, for you, does your story start?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think you probably touched on it a little bit. Born in the Eastern Cape. Some people call it the wild coast of the Eastern Cape. Born and raised in the villages of Eastern Cape. Mom and dad, family still down there.
And it was quite rural, as I understand. Libode is not a buzzing metropolis.
It is quite rural. So it's quite a small town, but it is surrounded by like hundreds and hundreds of villages. So you could literally draw like a 30, 40 kilometer radius of tough villages, kind of, serviced by this one small town. And it goes up to Mthatha as well. So you kind of go past between Mthatha and Port St. John's without even seeing the town, just because it's like not on the main road. But that's where I'm from, in the villages. I'm a village boy.
So, I mean, that's incredible. I'm going to come back to that. I want to speak to this because this just fascinates me. It's like most of the CEOs that I know, and admittedly, they're not a ton of you, but people that I know personally, it's like, their schools are, now they've just gone out of my head, St. John's, or it's St. Stithians, or it's Sachs, or Rondebosch if you're from the Cape. You did your primary schooling at Mount Nicholas, and you did your high schooling at Mount Curry. Now, there are not many CEOs, as I say, that I know that have those credentials behind their name.
Yeah.
What were those schools like?
It's certainly not, top-flying Eastern Cape schools like Selborne or Dale College or any of that. Very average schools. Mount Nicholas was the closest school to where we lived. It's a Roman Catholic sort of school. I did my primary there. Then I moved over to Mount Curry, which was our high school. That was just border of Cox. It's a town called Coxted, just border of KZN and the Eastern Cape. Just to throw something there, I paid 560 rands a year for my high school. So basically free, but my dad would still complain. It's like, oh my word, the school fees have gone up like 20 rands this year, kind of thing. I did boarding school in Coxted.
But that's a fascinating thing, because it's like you always expect, the captains of industry, and I'm going to put you in that category of a captain of industry because of where you find yourself now. There's always this expectation that you have to have, and I'm not saying you haven't had, but like a top-class education that, say, a private school would offer you. Here you are, the CEO of a global fintech company, the South African division of that company. Yeah. Proof that actually it's not about where you go to school, it's what you do with it, I would imagine. Or is that oversimplifying it?
It is true to some extent. And I think, you could look at, like top JSE CEOs, Sim Chabalala, or, there's quite a number of guys who have really made it, fairly big. But that is one in 1,000 or one, the rest of us who actually run, middle-sized businesses that are really good at what we do and understand the particular sectors that we're in. We're actually fairly average, regular guys that come from, ordinary backgrounds that are very common in South Africa. So it's not to say, you always get the high risers that are fairly well known and guys who are doing really well and really sharp. But most, guys are actually ordinary, like myself.
So the reason that I don't think you're ordinary, but we'll get to that. The reason that I'm pressing the point is to get to this is at 34, in my estimation, you're a young CEO.
Yep.
What have you had to fight against in terms of prejudice, in terms of if it has been schooling or the fact the color of your skin or your age, or have there been any of those things that a lot of South Africans have to face to get to the top of the pile?
I think to some extent, yes, but that certainly hasn't defined me in any way. I think I do, whenever I kind of chat to my folks, I do kind of tease them at times that they were not involved even on the choice of my high school. Just me and my friend at as a finishing sort of the primary stage of schooling, we kind of just decided to go to the same school, and whatever was on the top of the list, we just chose it. They didn't ever say I applied myself. Similar going to university. So there were involved parents, but probably education was not the thing that they really thought would kind of skyrocket my career going forward. They just, as long as I was going to school and it was decent and I was happy, they were very happy with it. So to some extent, if I would do it again, I do think I would actually choose a far better school for myself.
But do you need to? I mean, I look at this, you run a company of what, was it over 130 staff?
130 people here in South Africa.
Do you think you'd be in a bigger company if you'd gone to a better school? I mean, you said that this is a mid-sized company. Would it be like a bigger company that you're running?
No, I just think it's more. I think there is an element where if you haven't gone to a good school, it's you're one of a very few that kind of makes it, or you one of, I kind of have this analogy of this movie, The Hunger Games. You normally have 20 contestants that actually come to this game, and one person actually wins, and that's my point. Is that I think if we had a decent standard of education across the country, it would not be one that kind of makes it. It would be far more of the 20, 19 of the 20 at least, instead of just like one success story. So I just think as we sort of develop as a country, just really good schooling foundations across the board would help, not just the few green shoots there and there's the stories that are, rags to riches sort of story. Like, I feel like there should be far more, people that just,
Yeah, 100. I mean, how many people from your village could have made it? I mean, of guys that that just were not able to have the same level of education. I mean, that's kind of the level that we're talking, and that's just one small part of South Africa, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So the conversation wasn't going to go this way, but this is where it's going. I mean, would you say that is one of the biggest failings of a post-apartheid South Africa, that education has not been prioritized by our government, where a lot more people, a lot more young black Africans could rise to the kind of position that you're in, that exactly what we're speaking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a major part of the reason. Like literacy rates or STEM subjects are still very low, compared to global standards. I definitely think it is part of that. And if you want to grow an employment force that will actually change, industry across the board, you do need really good foundations of education. I did a short stint in India, where I actually was there to actually start a particular team, part of IG as well. But the interesting bit was just the number of graduates that they were able to actually produce. There's so many universities across the board, and they are able to actually just flood the market with, which is why you then have, one development role, like an IT software engineering sort of role that gets put out, and you've got a pool of 1,000 engineers that can actually meet it. Or in South Africa, that pool is far less because we're not meeting the demand of, we're not meeting the supply of actually producing well-educated people in particular disciplines.
In some respects, India, it seems to me, has a slightly different problem. Is that you've got so many graduates and so many people are looking for work that there are actually not enough jobs for that level of education. It's kind of you get caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
But in this country, I mean, there's such a massive mountain that we've got to overcome to change things. Do you think it's too late? Do you think we're in a place where it'll never happen, or?
No, I never. If I gave up, I would not be here. I probably would have been joined the masses of South Africans that would have kind of left the country already. I think there is definitely hope. I think there is a combination of probably not just doing the regular same amount of budget that's allocated to education like last year, or continuous improvement type of work. I just think we need a shock to the system. And I'd probably be sitting in Parliament, James, if I knew exactly how to fix, our education crisis. But I think it will take a lot more for us to shock the system per se. It will not just be, well, we had, just going to throw a number, 80 billion rands, put towards education last year. We're going to do the same thing next year. It probably needs to be triple that in order to actually make a huge dent to the poor levels of our schooling systems. And
a lot of the burden has been placed though on business to solve the problems like we're talking about here. Do you think that's a workable solution? Do you think that business can continue to sustain that? Because at the end of the day, we vote in a government that we want to work for the betterment of society, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's fair that government and business work like this? Or should the onus be entirely on government to actually solve the problem?
I think it's combined, but for the most part, business is capitalistic in nature. Business is, out to maximize, shareholder value. And I think to expect business to do the role of what government should be doing is probably unfair to business. And I think just generally, business will try, come in wherever they actually can. But there is ulterior motives. Shareholders are clear in terms of what we are looking for. You want to be a good corporate citizen. You want to make sure that you are filling the gaps where you actually can, but in the huge sense of the greater scheme of what business is actually there to do is to maximize shareholder value and maximize profit. So public-private partnerships, absolutely. A business my size, 150 people, a few 100 million rand sort of revenue, we will do what we can in particular spaces. And we are doing that, with strategic partners that we are engaged with within the education space in Gauteng, in the Western Cape. But in order to make that sort of contribution that South Africa actually needs, which I think is gigantic, just to kind of shock us out of this, stale kind of environment that we're in.
You're the son of a chief, and from a long line of generations of chiefs. Do you think that that's informed your sense of innate leadership, ability?
Yeah, to some extent, I think so. I admire my dad. He's really good at what he does. He's a traditional leader is what they call it in the Eastern Cape. There's like hundreds of them. They are the responsible people that actually govern vast amounts of rural areas. You can imagine, thousands of people outside of a town. The furthest town that has a police station or a magistrate court is like 30, 40 kilometers away. If you think about those people, they actually need a level of governance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what it's quite hidden It's quite hidden in terms of what traditional leaders do in South Africa, but that's what they do. They are in people's homes. They are, in arranging business to kind of come in. They are, my dad is, has dabbled in a lot of kind of business initiatives as well. Whether it's property development or, or small scale farming. I grew up actually in a small scale farm. 25 years ago, James, I was selling sheep in Libode. That's what I was doing.
That is amazing.
Just involved in my dad's businesses.
Yeah.
He had a shop. He was, a small scale farmer, whether it's maize or potatoes, whatever it is. And I was just like commercially involved in getting product out.
So the two things that stand out for me there. The first one is, was there any pressure from your dad to become a traditional leader in the same way that he is a traditional leader?
I hope he doesn't listen to this. There might be pressure from his side.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you under pressure like that.
No, it's fine. I'm not succumbing to the pressure is probably what. Look, I've got an older brother who is the one who would take over. So to some extent, no. But just in general involvement and presence within the community, definitely is expected. And you expect this, it's quite different because it's not like government where someone gets voted in. It's essentially it's bloodline. Like you kind of expect it to lead wherever you are, and it doesn't quite work in Joburg.
The second thing that I want to pick up on, and I want to bring it back to what you're doing here and now, is that commercial sense that was instilled in you at a young age. What did you bring from your education at Mount Nicholas and at Mount Currie, working in the family business, as it were, gaining commercial sense? What did you bring to your very first job at a brokerage desk that helped you in the, after you've been to bits, okay, you'd kind of experienced that kind of side of things, but how did it help you, if at all, in your first job?
In terms of from an education perspective, or just generally my experience? In terms of your life skills
and being able to deal with a completely different world, I would imagine. I don't want to prescribe how you experienced it, but it seems to me from the outside that's a very different kind of life, to move into a brokerage desk from rural Libode. How did you? What stuff did you learn there that you brought into your business here? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, I would say probably the ability to actually deal with people, whether they're clients or stakeholders or whoever is within your reach. Rich, poor, being able to actually have something to offer to anyone. And currently, I'll talk about at IG, we would probably segmentize our client base as well, but you kind of want to have an offering for the largest sort of pool of people as you can, and being able to actually speak to people at whatever different level that they're in. Brokerage space, trading financial markets is very complex for many people, but you could have a very simple entry level sort of app, or you could have an advanced trading platform with all the bells and whistles, connection to Bloomberg and all of that, So it is this understanding of where is a particular person and how do you actually speak to them at the level that they're at, and how do you reach those people. So just like dealing with different people, you just have to kind of be able to speak to them where they are.
So this is one of the interesting things. This is why it's dangerous to have pre-conversations before we get to an interview, because when I chatted to you last week in preparation for this interview, one of the things it was fantastic. You showed me an app, which I'm using, by the way. I immediately downloaded it and started using it. And your comment to me, which I found fascinating, was, I don't want to have to talk to people. I don't want to have to, which is kind of a little bit in contradiction to what you said, but it's like, I don't want to have to talk to people. I want an app that works.
Yeah,
IG is a traditional trading. It comes from quite traditional. It's got a heritage. Let's call it that. You are part of a new generation that sees apps and things just working without too much kind of stuff in between. You don't want to have to involve yourself too much in the nitty gritty. How do you marry those two things together? Because you seem to straddle that divide. You have the ability to talk to people, whether you like it or not. That's a separate issue. We can go down that road or not. But you have a desire to see technology working. Do you find that an easy kind of thing to straddle? and to make work?
Yeah, when I'm saying speak to people, particularly it's not to say I need to speak to the client directly, but it's my product that needs to speak to you. Whether it's a tech sort of platform or a particular service that I offer, that needs to speak to the client where the client actually is. Yeah. So to some extent, absolutely right. I mean, we did chat about a particular application that I use, and I've got brands in South Africa that I absolutely love, and I absolutely, like anyone I come across, I will kind of share, hey, do you have this app? Do you have this app? Do you have that app? So they are really good brands in South Africa that I'm a secret ambassador for them. They don't even know
They
it.
should be paying you.
They should be paying me. The best technology that's out there is technology that people can actually, it's user-friendly. The client experience is great. You do not have language is simple, especially, in the brokerage world, you can, financial markets world, you could use so much jargon, going long, going short, instead of just like buy or sell, just like simple language, and just like go through the simplification of what you're actually doing. And so the clients do not need to come to you and ask you certain things. Like the thing has to work the way it is, without having any intervention.
And have you had to work hard to make sure that works the way you wanted to, or was it in place by the time you became the CEO of IG South Africa? That tech that you're talking about, that IG offers, because it's a great tech platform.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I've been at IG for 10 years. And in the time, there's iterations of the application that would have, and it would not just solely be myself, because the global platform is quite a sizable platform, and there's teams, UX teams and research teams that would go to client focus groups, but internally as well, there are beta versions that we can actually play with, and we can give our feedback before clients actually see it. And that's normally a way of launching products as well. It's quite popular now where if you have a particular new application or new product that you want to offer to the market, give it to your staff first. Get them to actually play with the product as much as they can and give you the feedback, so that you can actually go to a much bigger.
I described in the introduction your rise to be the CEO of IG as meteoric, because from the outside, that's certainly what it looks like. You joined IG in 2015 as a sales trader, which is why I was able to say, yes, it's been 10 years. This is your 10-year anniversary. Yeah, 2018, you mentioned it a little earlier on, you went to Bengaluru in India to establish new trading services teams. 2020, you took over as COO. And by 2025, you are the CEO of this company. How have you navigated this? Does it feel fast to you, or does it not feel fast enough?
It does. It absolutely does. So,
how do you cope? How do you cope with that speed of change? Because your responsibility just keeps rising and rising and rising. And now, as the leader of the ship, the captain of the ship,
yeah.
is that cliche? I mean, it's a big responsibility.
I think really good past managers, very lucky. I'd probably say majority of the people who have managed me are absolutely, I'm still in touch with them even now, even when they've left IG. And just like an army of coaches and mentors, just people who are going to help you transition from one place to the next and help you get ready for the next step as well. So it is no means, pure hard work from me, or, that I had, an extra ingredient that no one else had. James, I know this series is about Mavericks, but I would actually regard myself as, fairly average in most things. There's no one weakness where I'm like, oh my word, this or
need to plug that gap.
Yeah, I need to plug that gap. It's like just being able to be good with people, be good with just understanding what we actually need to do in the business, love what I actually do, just like, but in a normal way. Average is probably not a great word, but in a normal way. It's not like I am.
Well, you know what? It's not a great word. I agree with you. But you know what it suggests to me, which I think is refreshing, is that there's a humility that you're talking about there, actually, because the reality is that to become the CEO of any company, you actually can't be average. I don't know if it's possible. So there's humility there. And I want to speak a little bit about that humility, because since you've been CEO, as far as I know, just with the research that I've done, 2023, 2024, 2025,
Yep.
you have been a top employer.
Yep.
IG South Africa.
Yep.
That has to have something to do with the fact that you're good with people and that you've created a good culture here, right?
Yeah.
You can't be average at that.
No, not quite average as that. No, I just meant from the sense that, normally
Dig yourself out of that hole.
Yeah.
Come on.
Normally you always hear these, US 500 CEOs that is really good at a particular, if Steve Jobs, and he can just see the future of, it's just like, no, like most people are actually they've got a very clear understanding of what they need to do in the particular environment. And I've just got my hands dirty and done it. Operationally, I'm quite good. I'm good with people. I'm good with understanding what clients are actually looking for. How to build good teams. I've got people that are far smarter than me. What I am actually good at, I would say, just over the 10 years, is actually just seeing people that I've hired in the last 10 years, people I've brought into the business and where they are now and what they're doing, even if they're not here, just the stuff that they're doing externally. Good teams they just take so much pressure off me, because I know that these people, I can trust them. They can actually do what's required.
It's interesting you say that, because it's something that I truly believe that the mark of a good leader is being able to surround yourself with good people who you don't feel threatened by, who work well for the business, but also work well for you, ultimately. But they have to work well for you, surely, if, because they trust you, because actually you're able to deliver. Yeah.
And to give them clear, like, where are we going? Just like really clear set of like a framework, just like this is what we need to do, and this is where you fit into it, and they just flourish in an environment where they know as well that this is a clear kind of framework or set of responsibilities and growth targets, and people just flourish when they have that clarity.
2021, the world kind of changed, and I mean it seems like so weird to be talking about something like COVID, which I think we all are trying desperately to forget. The reason I bring it up is that you guys work a 3-day week in the office here. Yeah. When I came to find you, I didn't find you in a corner office. I found you at one of the desks, like opposite where your staff are sitting. There are two things there. The first one is, how do you build a company culture that results in you being a top employer when people are only in the office 3 days a week, and even then they might not all be there on the same day? How do you build that corporate culture? How do you build a culture that makes you a top employer?
Yeah, that's a good pickup. We don't have corner offices at IG. I love sitting on the floor with, I want to hear what the client is saying. I want to hear how that particular person is kind of responding. I want to hear when there's an issue that's happened, the platform is down, or, something has happened in the market, and I want to hear the energy coming in from the room. And it just means I can actually just stand up and talk to someone across the desk, or I can, there's a lot more feedback that I get without being in a formal sort of meeting room where I'm asking for feedback. I absorb it because I'm part of it. So those are the kind of the small things that you kind of have to do in order to kind of create that sort of culture. And I think as well, when you have limited time with people, because people are at home 2 days a week, or sometimes you are not in the office in the same day, just means when you are there, you kind of have to make the most out of it. So when I'm in the office, I try my best to kind of reduce online meetings with the UK or Australia or whoever I need to speak to, not in South Africa. And I try to dedicate my time to the team that's in South Africa. I do all my one-to-ones in person. It's the small things so that you kind of make sure that relational capital is actually strong with your team, so that when there's trouble or when there's failure, or when there's a foundation of that relational capital, then we can, no one feels threatened that they don't know how I'm going to react, and because they see me at a fairly regular sort of basis.
Relational capital is such an important thing when it comes to the people that you work with.
And to build trust.
And to build trust.
Very important for trust. Yeah.
Where would you peg that in terms of importance of the success of a company, that relational capital?
I think it's quite high, which is why we've gone for 3 days as well instead of 2, or we could have gone 1. Don't to be honest, we could do without an office space. To be honest, we could do with just everyone work remotely, but we have found benefit in actually bringing people for collaboration and ideas and just sharing of and people just learning from each other and different teams as well. Otherwise, they just never see each other. So I think relational capital is really important if you want to create a high-performing environment. If it's high-performing environment without that relational capital or trust or sense of security, you're just going to get people who are really scared to do anything. They're not going to try things out. There's no taking any risk because they're worried about their job, because we just always on the go. But if it's also like, we like each other, like we want to be in an environment where we mates, we can go for coffee, we can do this, we can do that, we can play a game of paddle after work, and it just creates a nice base so that when we're in the boardroom, we can actually go fairly hard without feeling like someone is going to be offended or someone is not going to get what we're trying to do here.
It's amazing to hear that. If I think back to the very first job that I had, relational capital, I think, was one of the major successes of that company. That, and also the fact that, which was the second point, which we don't need to go into any great detail, is the fact that you've got a very flat structure in a way, the fact that you are on the floor. So the first CEO that I worked for, a guy called Neil Duffy, everybody was kind of scared of him, but there was this sense, actually, I could go up to him and say, Neil, I don't understand what's going on here. And there was very much that sense of being able to interact at that level, which made it such a hugely successful company at the time.
Yeah.
I want to move slightly away from business specifically and just go back to your background, because there have been significant faith-based and mentoring roles that you've held, and it started actually at Wits. You had a ministry that you ran there.
Yeah.
Added to your high-pressure CEO job, you are the elder in a church in Johannesburg. How do you balance all these things, and how significant is that stuff to your development as the leader of this company, if at all, or is it completely separate? Do they marry together, or do you live separately?
They are. It's just my world. I think it is in my head. It's one world. It's not like one world. This world is actually hidden from another. It's just part of who I am, and I think. Again, it's more, the Christian sort of background that I've got, or the church that I was part of at uni. It really just gave me like solid foundation of how to actually kind of have to start building on what actually matters, because in places like university, there's quite a lot of noise. Believe me, when I came into my first year, the picture that I had for my life was completely different with what I have now. And I don't think without that kind of foundation of character building and just like, understanding the value of humanity, so that when you are dealing with clients, you're seeing clients not just like as, this client is worth this much to me and that client is worth that much to me. Like it's human beings, So I think my faith has a huge part to do with just how I lead. Even now, I'm a relator, I'm a people person because I see value in people. But even just from those early days, it's just like being in leadership positions, public speaking and engaging with different people from different backgrounds. And till today, I am, as you said, an elder in a church. My family is very involved. I've got people that work at IG that are part of the church I'm part of as well. Life it's not one person at work and one person at home and one person at church. It's like it's all the same. It's all the same person.
It's a full life, though. I mean, that is, you mentioned your family. We haven't even got onto that. You've got a beautiful wife. You've got 2 lovely sons.
Yeah.
You're involved heavily in the church. There is no difference between the Aphindile that is at IG or the one that is at church, as you've expressed. How do you find balance? How do you hold all of that and still perform at a high level, which you do? You're a high performance individual. There's no doubt about that. You can't do what you do without being a high functioning individual.
Good question. I think it's just making time for things that matter for me. So as an example, as much as I would love to play golf, I don't have 4 hours on a weekend because of either Sunday looks like this for our family, or you kind of have to make those kind of sacrifices and find the right time for the right things, and to be able to say yes to things you can do and say no to things you can't do. At work, of course, I almost have to say yes to most things that the business actually requires, and it means I can actually taper some things. I can manage the other parts of life, but my family brings a lot of energy. I normally joke that when the kids were much younger, as babies, going into the office on Monday morning was the best thing ever.
Yeah, indeed.
Was the best thing
It's
ever.
a bit of relief.
But now, as they've grown, to be a lot more fun and a lot more engaging, going home is just absolute joy. And it gives me energy to come back the next morning fully energized and ready to actually do what I need to do for the business.
A lot of leaders have habits that help them kind of cope with this balance that we've been talking about. They develop morning rituals or routines, or maybe it's an evening ritual or routine. You've said that golf is not one of those things that you do to relax or whatever. But what routines and rituals, maybe not the right. What routines, if any, do you have that help you with that balance?
Yeah, quiet time in the morning. I do have quiet time where I kind of meditate or read. But also I think once being able to kind of force rest is quite important. Weekends. I know some people can't. Some business leaders, are full on and they just continue into the weekend, and great for them. But weekends, I do dedicate them for family. And if on a Saturday evening or a Sunday evening or Sunday morning, I need to do something for work, I would wake up far earlier in order to kind of get that done and not interrupt the family ritual, or the family tradition that gives me energy, and I know it's important to our lives. So I've got that, and I make sure that I prioritize rest as well, or taking leave as well.
5 years into your role as CEO, is there anything that you in these 5 years look back at and go, yeah, I'm really happy with that? I want to use the word proud, but I'm not sure if that would be appropriate. Or maybe it is appropriate. But it's like, is there anything that you're proud of that you've achieved in 5 years? And what does the next 5 years look like?
I guess 5 years into executive roles, because I started as COO in 2020, I think it's just being able to... We grew commercially, means we grow number of jobs as well. It means we kind of provide a lot of growth for people in the office, and we can actually build onto a successful sort of business. And I think that's what we actually have today. I feel for people that normally that find themselves actually working for businesses that are either underperforming or in kind of constrained sort of environments, because they're just not fun to work for. I think, it's always pay cuts or retrenchments or whatever. I think what we have been able to do, and not that we've never retrenched or we don't, kind of go through those kind of processes when you kind of have to, but when you have built a good, successful business in, all fronts, it just means it's a fun environment for people to be in, and you can actually attract talent from different businesses and banks, and you have fun as you go. So I think that's part of the overall sort of success that I think we've had in the last 5 years.
Slightly different question, but with the same focus, I guess, is what's the boldest move you've made in the last 5 years that's had even you going, was that the right thing, and then that proved to be the right thing?
Probably launching new products. It's always quite scary, especially in the financial markets. There's always risk of something going wrong, or something in the product that you haven't thought of, or you kind of overestimated the growth or revenue that you'd get in a particular product, and you end up you end up failing because you said you're going to do X, and you end up at a particular at a lower sort of actuals than your estimates. But I think just launching new products is always difficult, and just making sure that clients you are offering something that clients are actually looking for as well.
Value.
You're giving value, adding value to them. Yeah, exactly.
You've kind of intimated at one of the things that I think every business leader has to face is failure. I do want to look at it from a little bit more of a fun perspective. If there was a blooper reel of the last 5 years, what would make the cut for you? Things that might have gone like a little bit not the way you wanted. I mean, let's face it. There hasn't been anything that big, clearly enough that has meant that you had to move on. Yeah. So in that respect, I think we're safe.
Yeah.
But is there anything that you personally look at and go, that would make the blooper reel? That was a little bit of a hiccup.
Yeah. Or I'd need to give that a bit more thought. James,
Putting you on the spot.
There's certainly nothing that stands out as a big blooper.
But that's good. I mean, that in some respects is both a sign of good leadership, but also, I guess it might provide a little bit of motivation. It's like, well, I don't want anything to go on the blooper reel, so you work harder, right, to make sure that there's nothing there.
And if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
You kind of have to deal with the failure as well. And I think just generally with failure, and I have failed in so many, places. It's not particularly a blooper in that sense, but we have tried stuff and they just haven't worked out.
How do you
but
move
not
on
failing
from that?
publicly.
No, it's exactly. I mean, and that's why I was hesitant to use the word failure. I mean, how do you move on from those moments? Tiger Woods has this famous thing, speaking of golf, where he had a red line that he walked over, and it's like he made a mistake, messed up a putt or whatever the thing was, he'd walk over that red line and forget about it. Do you have something like that you do, where it's like, or do you want to learn from that stuff and say, well, look, I want to move on from this, but I want to learn?
Yeah, no, I do. And I think for me, it's particularly just talking about it, especially with the team or whoever is involved with that, particular failure. You just need to talk about it. Just try gain as many lessons, or not to assign blame. It's not like a blame, a blame shifting sort of culture, but it's just like, we tried this, it didn't work out, and these are the reasons why it didn't work out. If we know, or we find out what those reasons are if we don't know, but you kind of talk up a failure. Like, it should just be natural, and you talk about it, and so it's not a point of gossip in the corridors or over coffee, and no one wants to kind of confront me about it or talk to me about it. I also do lots of monthly town halls with the whole office, where it's just like very quick high-level business updates in terms of where we are with performance and where we've done well, where we've failed, and questions just come. So it's just create that open environment where the successes and the failures are discussed.
I want to start bringing this to an end and give you time to get back to what you do best. A couple of quick fire questions. What's your most un-CEO habit and that the team has to live with?
I don't read as much as I should.
Let's say your life is turned into a Netflix series. What's it called and who's playing you?
Last Dance. MJ, come on.
Lovely. Okay, that title's been taken, but I get it. MJ's going to play you. I take it. Showstopper all the way.
Yeah,
you see, we can't get away from it, right? If you were to build a business completely outside of this industry, what would it be and how would it sell? Or would you be able to sell it?
Yeah, as long as I'm providing financial freedom for people is probably, that's what I know the best. And,
no, I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to let you off the hook like that. You can't stay outside of this industry.
Outside of the industry,
something that's completely outside of your comfort zone. What would it be? Is it basketball related?
No, probably actually in the property space.
Okay.
Just bringing back old, heritage sort of properties across SA. I always envy going to the UK or Europe, Greater Europe, where there's properties with hundreds of years. So probably in that space.
Okay. What's your go-to vibe reset? And I'm going to give you options here to make it easy: music, prayer, memes, coffee, or disappearing from a WhatsApp group.
probably disappearing from a WhatsApp group.
That helps you reset.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like less distraction.
Man, do we have so many WhatsApp groups? I don't know how many you have on your phone. I would love to check.
Do. They're all muted, by the way, including
That's
my
why we
family
can
one.
never get hold of you.
Including my family one.
Really? I don't know if you should have admitted that on camera, but okay. Complete the sentence. Being a young CEO in South Africa means constantly learning how to
grow. Just understand that you don't know enough, and learn from those who've gone before you.
There was a two-part question which you didn't answer the second part of it, so I'm going to end off with that question: is what do the next 5 years look like for you?
To know, it is definitely want to be in the forefront of running businesses. Thinking about what's happening globally, what can be brought into South Africa, whether it's products or services. There's lots of cool stuff happening across the world. So it's undefined at this point. Hopefully at IG. If not, it would be somewhere else where I get to add value, get to build people, get to build teams, get to do cool stuff with people that I am interested in, or stuff that I'm interested in. So we'll find out. We'll soon find out. Maybe let's have another one in 5 years' time, James.
Yeah, absolutely. I've already marked that off in my calendar. We started this with a statement that everyone has a story to tell, and I asked you, where would your story start? Does it still start in the same place, having chatted about all the things we've chatted about?
Still does. I think that's very formative for me. My days of selling sheep in Libode is still very formative. I think that's where it starts.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Aphindile, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, and we've learned so much. There's a whole lot of stuff that I think we probably have left out, and maybe we don't have to wait 5 years. I'm going to have to come back and do part 2 of this. But thank you for your time. Speaking to Mavericks, it's what it's all about on the Milk and Sugar Effect. Join us the next time as we introduce another Maverick to you, and we'll see you then. Don't forget to subscribe. We love your subscribes.